Hello, hello, good evening, and happy new year to you all. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm sorry for all the but yeah, the main thing we are live, and we can't wait to do this one. Tonight is a very important topic. It's a very session for the year as well on vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccines. And as usual, I've got Mr. Dr. Robert Khan with me. If you haven't phoned your friends and family, please do so because you know we have a whole lot of myths going on with this vaccine. Dr. Robert Khan, it's a special one. It's a Skype edition. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you as well. So thank you. We had a lot of technical hitches, but the main thing is we are live. Yeah. So thanks for joining me once again. Yeah. Guys, I'll need you all to phone your friends and family, and let's do this together. Right. That's perfect. So before we go into the vaccines, it's very important we recap on everything to do with COVID. So if you can just recap on the disease, on coronavirus, and the information we have to date.
Okay. Winnie, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Am I clear?
I think you are clear. There
Oh,
is
okay.
a bit of echo, but I think it's probably expected.
Right. Okay then. Once again, apologies to the viewers for all the delays. When you have older people like myself and Winnie trying to grapple with technology, it's not easy. But I'm still delighted that we're on air. Just before we start the program, just a bit of disclaimer. Because we're going to talk about the vaccines, I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not receiving any payment from any agency or organization by taking part in this program. Any views or opinions that I'm expressing are my personal views based on the fact that I've done my own research according to the information that is out there. We felt that in the middle of the confusion surrounding the vaccine and the disease, so many people have been calling us, asking us our opinion. Should we take the vaccine? Should we not take the vaccine? And I can understand the confusion that people are going through in the sense that even me as a medic, sometimes when I read some of the information out there, you don't know what to make of it, whether this is true or this is not true. And I'm talking about somebody who is, in quotes, a scientist and who understands a lot of the information that is put out there. So I do sympathize with lay people who are not medics, who are trying to make sense of all that is going on. But I hope that tonight we can have a discussion. So whoever is joining, your views, your opinions, your contributions are very, very welcome. Feel free to put any comments on Facebook, and then we'll do our best to answer some of the questions after we're done with the program. Now, in June, I remember we did quite an extensive program on COVID, isn't it? So just quickly to recap, the disease that we're dealing with is what we call the SARS-CoV-2. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I mean, there is an echo in there, but we will keep going. Let's keep going with the topic. Yeah.
Okay. Okay then. The coronavirus disease that we're dealing with is what we call the SARS-CoV-2. CoV-2. Are you with me? And this virus has been around for many years. Okay, coronaviruses are not new. They've been around. They've been known to cause infections in animals, but they can change and infect man. Okay, coronaviruses can be found in pigs, in chicken, in turkey, in guinea fowls, in monkeys. Are you with me? In chimpanzees, and right, it is okay.
Yeah, I think we are still having a lot of technical issues, aren't we?
That's right. I can barely hear myself when I'm talking from this end. Well, I don't know what is happening. Winnie, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
All right then. Okay. So over the years, we've had different infections that have been caused by different coronaviruses. And I'm sure people have heard about SARS. People have heard about MERS. Are you with me? So it is not new. It is a virus, not a bacteria. Okay. And I'm struggling to understand that some people are saying that it is not a virus, it is not a disease. So if it's not a virus, it's not a disease, then I'm struggling to see what is actually killing thousands of people or millions of people worldwide. Are you with me? I'm also struggling to understand what is being isolated in the lab. If it is not a virus, if there's no virus out there, then it means that it is the greatest cock up or collusion among nations that human beings have ever been exposed to. So there is a virus there. Whether that virus is man-made, okay, or natural, that we cannot prove, but there is a virus out there that is killing people. Are you with me? The current coronavirus pandemic is thought to have originated in animals, but because of the number of people who were exposed to the wet market in Wuhan, in China, just to give you a bit of background. Are you with me? And we also learned that the disease is spread by close contact. When you've been in close contact with somebody who is infected by the disease for more than 15 minutes, then you're likely to pick up the disease or to pick up the virus from people. We also discussed the fact that there are risk factors. There are things that put a person at risk. The older a person is, the more at risk they are. We also said that it is also been very clear that males tend to be more infected than females. Are you with me? And then people who have chronic diseases, for example, COPD or chronic lung diseases, asthma, heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, obesity, for example, chronic kidney disease, liver disease. All of these are conditions that make somebody more prone to the condition. And we also spoke about the fact that a person's geographical location could also put them at risk. And I remember at the time we're talking about why Bami people or blacks and ethnic minorities were more at risk of the disease. And we examined the fact that it is because most of the jobs that we do are what we forward-facing jobs, isn't it? And that is why we are more at risk. Now, currently, 1 year down the line, this infection is not stopping. When you look at the history of most pandemics would last for more than a year. If you go back to the Russian flu that happened in 1889, that lasted until 1894. Are you with me? The Spanish flu lasted up until about 2 years. Other influenza pandemics that we've had have lasted 3 to 4 years. So actually, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. We are nowhere near over this pandemic, and the virus is here to stay. It is not going to go anywhere. We would have to learn to live with it, adapt with it, find different treatments so that man can survive this disease. Now, currently, as we're talking, in the UK, we currently have more than 3.5 million cases of coronaviruses, of which we've had more than 94,000 dead at the moment. And if people tune into their TVs, they would realize that on a daily basis, at the moment, over the past week, we're getting more, almost on an average, more than 1,000 people dying. So the disease is there, people are dying. It is no respecter of persons, just for me to emphasize. Worldwide, there are more than 96 million cases so far. And the death that we've had is more than 2.6 or 2.06 million out of a population of 7.8 billion. Are you with me? So the disease, as I said, is there. Now, if I give you a bit of historical background, there have been 3 worldwide pandemic outbreaks in the 20th century alone. In 1918, the Spanish flu. In 1957, the Asian flu. In 1968, the Hong Kong flu. In addition to this, we've also had, this is not the first time we're having a coronavirus causing a pandemic. We've had one before. We've had the SARS, if people would remember. And we've also had the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome as well, all caused by coronaviruses to different degrees of severity. So you would see that whenever a virus causes a pandemic, it doesn't disappear off the radar. Man just learns to live with it. So this is going to be there. Are we likely to get another coronavirus outbreak? Probably in some years to come. Definitely. Don't rule it out for as long as the virus exists on Earth. Is the disease real? Yes, the disease is real. So this is just to recap where we are at the moment with the disease. So I'll hand over to Winnie so that we can continue with the program.
Yeah, so I must apologize to everyone listening to us for all the technical problems we had at the beginning. But I think it's a bit more steady now, and I'm pleased
That's
with
right.
that. So we will keep going. Just so the viewers know, you are all the way in Kent, isn't it? And our studio is in Walthamstow, and I'm here in Cambridge. So, I mean, it's great that at least we can even think of doing this, because there is so many things surrounding the virus and the whole epidemic. And like we did in the first episode, and for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we have had a thorough session on the coronavirus in one of the earlier on sessions last year. So we will post that again so viewers can have the opportunity to listen to that session that we did. But then let's dive straight into this one. I think people are so scared about the vaccines and do not have much information at all. And I remember in the first episode, the World Health Organization boss was describing the information out there as an infodemic, and I think that has never gone away. We still have that problem. So if we can, before we go and look into detail about the vaccines, now we suddenly hear about different variants. So before we even deal with one problem, there is another problem already rearing its head. What can we know about the new variants that are suddenly on the scene?
Okay. Now, in terms of the new variants, people hear different terminologies. Sometimes you hear a term strain. Sometimes you hear a term mutation. Sometimes you hear a term variant. When we say something is a variant, it is just a different form of the same organism. Are you with me? Or of the same strain. So to make life easier for us, we're dealing with what we call the SARS-CoV-2 strain, or the coronavirus strain. And from this strain, you can get different versions of it. Okay. The typical example that I can use is, let's come closer to home. If we take something like, you can have McDonald's. Let's say you have McDonald's as a brand. Is that okay? And then just next door to it, you can have another person opening another something similar like McDonald's, but in this case the color is the same, the logo might even look the same, but the spelling would be MACDO, McDonald, instead of MCD. That is a variant of McDonald. Now, if I translate that to the virus, all that it is that the virus is an organism that has features, okay? When you look at the structure of the virus, for example, you would see that on the outside, it has spikes. The picture of the virus almost looks like, that's one of these chocolates that we love, Ferrero Rocher. Anytime that I remember coronavirus, I remember Ferrero Rocher because of the roughness on the outside. It looks like the protein spikes. Now, basically what happens is that viruses, like human beings, have learned to adapt. So if a virus is in a human being or an organism, okay, remember that the organism mounts up a defense every day. Now the virus has to find a way to survive in that organism. Now to survive, it has to adapt. So it adapts by changing the way it is. Not entirely. It makes very subtle little changes to the way that it looks. So for example, maybe the protein on the outside, it might change it a little so that it will be able to escape maybe the hydroxychloroquine you're taking, a medication you're taking, the immunity that the body is mounting up, or the vaccine that you're putting in. So it will be able to still live in that body or live in that cell and escape detection. That is what we call a mutation. So the mutation is just a change in viruses constantly change. And there are always new variants of a virus that are expected to occur over time. That happens normally. So people should not be afraid that we are talking about variants.
Yeah.
If you remember correctly, every year, the reason every year the flu vaccine, people are not even aware that the flu vaccine every year, we adapted a little. We adapted a little because the flu virus changes the way it is every year. Subtle little changes, but those subtle little changes allows the virus to adapt to the human cell or the human body. Okay, so every year scientists are always adapting the vaccine to make sure that any changes, subtle changes that happen, we can deal with that with medication, or we can deal with that with vaccines. That is what the variants are. So originally last year, we had the normal variant that we were dealing with. Then all of a sudden, sometime from October, November, December, we noted that different variants of the same strain we're dealing with have also occurred, which is not strange at all. You would expect the virus to try to adapt as it spreads through the population. And sometimes it depends on who it finds itself in. Are you with me? It might find itself in a group of people where it is able to change and adapt. And when those group of people then come into contact with others, it makes it easier to spread. At the moment, there are three main variants that we're dealing with of the same coronavirus. And we have what we call the UK variant. Okay, or some people call it the Kent variant, or you might see something like VUI 2020-12/01. It is the same variant. It also has the name B117. It is the same variant. Are you with me?
Right.
First identified in Kent and the southeast. And the one thing with this particular variant is that it is easily transmissible. It means that it can spread very quickly. Initially, they said that it doesn't cause any more severe disease than the original variant. However, now we are beginning to note that a lot of the admissions in hospital, and certainly for people that are going down quickly with the virus, are being caused by the variant. The Kent variant. That is why we're taking it very seriously, because it is spreading very quickly. Are you with me?
Yeah.
For some reason, it is almost as if the virus has been able to adapt itself and making sure that it can spread to a lot more people than it should. Then we have the South African variant, which is called the 1.351 variant. Are you with me? Again, it shares the same mutations with the variant that was detected in the UK, but the differences are very, very subtle. Then we have the Brazilian variant at the moment, which is why now you've heard that we've almost restricted travel from people that are coming from Brazil and from Latin American, some of the countries there. That is because of the Brazilian variant. That variant is called the variant P1. Okay. It was originally identified in 4 travelers from Brazil who were tested during routine testing in Japan. And once that was picked up, we noted that no, there's another variant. Now, as I said, viruses undergo mutations all the time to become different variants. But these mutations are silent. We don't even see them. They don't have any functions at all. However, some of the variants actually may cause difficulties. For now, the reassuring thing is that the subtle changes that have been seen in these variants are not so significant. So it means that the current vaccines that are available can deal with it, because it is only subtle changes in their protein. So that is the good news, that the vaccines that are available can deal with these new variants as well. And there are still trials that are going on. It's not done. Still, trials and research is going on. The more the virus change, the scientists are out there still tracking it, working on it, adapting them, what we call phase 3 vaccines that are coming out. Are you with me? To the different variants and the different strains that are coming. So in part, it is not all bad news. There is good news out there that something is being done about it. Are you with me? Okay.
Yeah, I think that probably brings us to the biggest question, and for all of us is the dilemma of the vaccines. And for most people, I think they are so scared in the sense that from history, country, we know vaccines have taken years to, and this has taken a rather short time to develop. So then more and more questions keep coming up. So for now, I think our focus is what we want to know about the vaccine. So if you can delve straight into the matter of the vaccines, because I think a lot of them watching us have fears and doubts about this vaccine. And Dr. Khan, can I just say, because one of the questions somebody asked me when I was going to host the program was, have you had the vaccine yourself? Have you had the vaccine yourself? And I can safely say that, of course, I have, and I advertised it for everyone to see. Have you had the vaccine, Dr. Khan?
I definitely have had the vaccine. Last Sunday, I had my first dose. I've had my first dose, and I'm waiting to have my second dose. Otherwise, then,
did you have?
Oh, I can't hide it. It was the AstraZeneca vaccine that was offered to me.
Is it the same as the Oxford one?
Yes, AstraZeneca. So people would, I'll come to that in a moment. People would hear the terminology AZ vaccine or Oxford vaccine. The Oxford vaccine is the same as the AstraZeneca one. And then you would hear Pfizer BioNTech. That is also the same vaccine.
I had that one.
The Pfizer BioNTech one.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's 2 of the 3 available vaccines already in use. So what
That's
is
right.
the third one?
No, it is. There are 3 main ones that have been approved. The first one is the Pfizer one. So you would see the terminology Pfizer BioNTech, Pfizer/BioNTech. It is the same vaccine. Then the second one is the one which is the AstraZeneca/Oxford. That is the second vaccine. And then the third one is the Moderna vaccine being produced in the US. Are you with me? So there are 3 main ones. From my research, I understand there's another vaccine from China as well, but that has not been approved here. But those are not the only vaccines that are available. There are other vaccines in the pipeline that are also being produced as well. Now, just to look, we've all been exposed to a lot of information on social media, in the news and whatever. It is good to have free speech. It is good to have the freedom to post whatever information. And certainly, I'm delighted that people have the freedom to put information out there. I think the danger is that in the multitude of all that information we have, there's always confusion. Now, we also do have a general public that depends on people that are that are social media influencers, people that are of repute, people that work in the medical sector, and people that are community leaders. Are you with me? Whose word people hang on. So when people make unfortunate comments or put out unfortunate information without any fact at all, then it creates the situation that we're in. Are you with me? Now, to give you a bit of a background history of what vaccines are and how vaccines are made, a vaccine is just a product, okay, that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease. Now, man has always lived with viruses, with bacteria, and with fungi for thousands of years or millions of years, if you want. Man has lived with it. Man has adapted to living with it. When you read through history, disease has always killed man in the millions, in the numbers. If you look at the pandemic, the flu pandemic, for example, it just wiped out the Spanish flu, wiped out affected a third of the world's population and killed more than, I understand, more than about 5 million people. And at that time, even the population was small. Now, assuming we didn't have vaccines to combat a lot of these killer diseases that used to kill children, that used to kill people, I mean, even now the COVID would have decimated people if it wasn't for the advancement that science has made. Are you with me? So people have to understand that vaccines contain the same germs that cause may contain the same germ that cause disease. So, for example, if you take measles vaccine contains measles virus. If you take the HIV or Haemophilus influenza B vaccine, it contains that bacteria. The bacteria or the virus you find in the conventional vaccines are either live, okay, not live as in the live virus. The virus has been attenuated or made weaker, and then it is used to develop the vaccine, placed in the human being. Then the human being develops an immune response, or it helps the body fight off that particular real virus when you come into contact with it. Now, this is what makes vaccines such powerful medicines. Unlike most medicines, so for example, if I have measles, I may not be able to take an antibiotic to cure the measles, but in the presence of a vaccine, it would make the virus a bit more harmless so that my body's immune system can overcome it and deal with it. Are you with me? Now, people are saying that why is it that the vaccine has been created so quickly? The vaccine has not been created so quickly. Are you with me? Remember that coronaviruses have been around for many years now, and we've also had small outbreaks. Now, all those small outbreaks allow scientists have been working on coronaviruses and trying to find vaccines to some of these deadly viruses for quite a while, and they've been experimenting with different technologies. And because of advancement, I mean, conventionally, normally, you would take a part of the organism, or you would take the whole organism and make it inactive, and then you put it in a vaccine. Now, producing a vaccine that way, sometimes it's quite laborious, if I have to use that word. It goes through a lot of hoops. Okay, so scientists are always trying to find new technologies. How do we combat cancer? How do we combat these deadly diseases? Can we have, for example, have a vaccine that we can use to tackle so many different viral diseases? For example, they've seen Ebola wipe away people. They've seen so many deadly viral pandemics wipe away people. So the experiments have always been ongoing. Is that okay? So there's already been some previous basic knowledge of the virus, as I said, from previous pandemics. And then what happens is that normally, maybe say the pharmaceutical company that is researching the vaccine uses its own resources, its own money, it needs ethical approval, it has to do trials, okay, tested in animals, then tested in human beings. The whole length of that probably might take up to about 18 months. 18 months from scratch. Now, COVID vaccine, the production of it was not from scratch, as I said. That basic information was there, work was already being done. What happened was that because of the pandemic, now suddenly governments came together, people came together, the money was made available. So instead of the pharmaceutical companies doing things on their own and seeking clearance, which sometimes because of administrative bureaucracy can take months or even years to get approval, governments realize that no, we need to do something to support. So we need to give that approval so that they can overcome these hoops and then get the vaccine being produced. So instead of 18 months, you already have a vaccine that is already being developed anyway because of the previous pandemic. So it just sped up things. Are you with me? So it's not as if that it's suddenly being cooked. Initially, when the information was coming out, I will be honest with you, as a clinician, I was a little worried. How can you produce a vaccine in such double time?
Yeah.
So I had to do my own research. I had to read papers. I had to read publications and things that have been put out there, trusting that at least many of them are genuine. Are you with me? Like you and I would want to believe. So I just want to, if it's any reassurance to people that are listening, that over the past 20 years, there have been already 2 huge outbreaks of viruses, and that work was being done in the background that people were not aware. Okay, so it's not something that started from scratch. The information was there, and they've just accelerated it. Are you with me? And I'll give you an example. An example is the Oxford vaccine. Evidence shows that the researchers had already done a lot of work before 2020, over the past 5 to 10 years. They've already been doing the work. And the work they've been doing with the coronaviruses and some of the experiments they are doing was to tackle so many different diseases. It just happened that we just entered into a pandemic, so they have to speed up things. Are you with me? And then put the vaccine out there. If that answers the question you were asking, how has it been produced so quickly?
I think a lot of people are having this thought on their mind, how it's come about so very quickly. And I think it's very clear from what you have said that they were already working on it from previous outbreaks, which were not pandemics, but
Yeah.
albeit they were outbreaks.
Yeah.
But this time they have expedited all that they needed to do because of the nature of the infection this time. So
Yeah.
that brings me to go straight into some of the fears that people have in terms of the whole corona and the vaccines. Some of the questions people are asking is if I have had COVID already, does it mean I am immune? Because obviously they are talking about immunity, and if I am immune, does it mean I need to take the vaccine or not?
If
So if you can look into that.
if it's okay with you, maybe let's look at the different types of the vaccine, because the Oxford is different from the Pfizer. And I think one of the confusion about it is not even the immunity that people will develop. It's the fact that which one should I go for? Even
Yeah.
before we come to the myth. Now, people have heard the term mRNA, DNA, so many things being bandied around. If I have the vaccine, like somebody said that maybe in 20 years' time I'll develop a tail. Somebody said in maybe 10 years' time I'm going to become a hybrid, a chimera,
Yeah.
a universal soldier. People have put all kinds of things out there. So
Yeah.
to explain, okay, the mRNA vaccine, it just contains a material from the virus that causes the COVID-19. They are a new type of vaccine that are being developed over years now, not just to combat viral diseases. It's a technology that is also being developed to combat cancer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole idea of the technology is that the human cell is complex, okay? It doesn't easily allow things to enter into what we call the cytoplasm or the inside of the cell or the nucleus. A lot of these viruses either live in the cytoplasm or can even have the ability to pop something into the nucleus of the cell. Now, if you're going to deal with it effectively, you have to find a way to enter the cell. Using the
Right.
conventional way of producing vaccines, sometimes it's difficult to overcome these things, these challenges. So scientists have been clever enough by developing what they call mRNA vaccines. So basically, you're taking a part of the virus that you're dealing with. Okay, it's almost like, so in this case, you're taking the protein on the surface of the virus, because it is the protein that the virus uses to attach to a human cell and then gain entrance into the human cell. So you're just taking the protein and then you encode it. Encode means that you're just learning about the structure of how the protein is, and then you replicate this. So all that you're doing, you use this. You have to find a way to put whatever you've encoded into the inside of the cell, so that the cell then detects it and says that, okay, the cell then produces copies of this similar protein you've created. Are you with me? So once it's created, that if the real virus enters the body, the cell is able to detect the real virus and mount up an immunity.
Yeah.
Now, to be able to put this protein you've created into this mRNA into the cell, you need something called a lipid nanoparticle.
Mm-hmm.
Because it must be able to cross the barrier of the cell and go into the cell. And that lipid nanoparticle allows it to cross that barrier into the cell. Now, once it enters the cell, it is destroyed. Okay? That mRNA residue that goes into the cell will be destroyed. It doesn't alter the DNA. It doesn't change anything in the DNA.
Yeah.
It is destroyed. And then the body can then mount up immunity. Are you with me? But because it's a new technology, there's all kinds of information that is out there. Researchers have been studying and working hard with it. Look, I can understand that for every good workman you have, there are fake ones out there. For every good builder, there's a cowboy builder. For every good doctor, there's a bad one out there. For every good herbalist, there's a quack herbalist out there. Humans can never escape from it. Are you with me? We would always deal with wicked scientists. We would always deal with wicked people. So as I'm talking, I don't know what is going on out there, but I can only present what I know. What doesn't sit well with me is the fact that governments and scientists can collude and create something to kill their own people. When I went to have my vaccine last Sunday, there was a queue of more than 50 people there. I was the only black person there. Are you with me? And I stood there wondering, why would the governments kill their own people or turn them into hybrids? It doesn't make sense to me at all with the vaccines that were given. Now, when you take the Oxford vaccine, so the Pfizer vaccine uses this new technology. That is why we call it the mRNA vaccine. If you take the AstraZeneca Oxford one, that is like any conventional vaccine. Okay, in the olden days, the way vaccines are produced. So you've taken part of the organism itself, you've made it harmless, you've put that into a vaccine and you've injected it. So when it goes into the body picks it up and then develops immunity to it. So in a way, you can say that, okay, the Oxford vaccine is like the normal vaccine that we normally have. And then the Pfizer vaccine is the new technology. And then the Moderna vaccine is also the same type of mRNA vaccine, just like the Pfizer one. So we have three main vaccines. Two of them are mRNA vaccines, and one is the conventional vaccine. And both of them have been approved. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I think that is clear. We have a number of people adding on, starting to ask questions already.
Okay.
But the good thing is that we are clear that we have three already in operation worldwide, isn't it?
Yes, at the moment.
Already mentioned, and I think you've gone to explain how these vaccines work once they get into your body. Let's discuss the facts about these vaccines, the facts and the myths surrounding them, because I think that is what people need to know. They've heard so much. Which ones are facts and which ones are, myths?
Right. Okay. I was trying to get some of the information. One of the myths, or let me say, false information, was the fact that does mRNA vaccines, when it enters your cell, it will interact with your DNA and then change the genetic makeup of the person. That's one of the things that are worrying people. Okay. Now, people have to understand that RNA is different from DNA. When you take the cell of a human being, the DNA is in the nucleus. RNA is not in the nucleus. The RNA stops in the cytoplasm. Okay, you find the RNA in the cytoplasm. So if you are talking about something entering into your nucleus and changing your genetic makeup inside your nucleus, that RNA is not going to go into your nucleus. It stays in the cytoplasm. It doesn't enter. Number two, once it enters the cell, it is broken down. Are you with me? So mRNA or messenger RNA, as I said, will enter into the cell. It does the job in the cytoplasm. Then at the end of the process, it is broken down. Is that okay? The body destroys it. That is what we are made to understand. And it is not going to interact with your DNA and destroy the DNA and change you into something later on. Are you with me? Now, let me pose a question to people at this point. Okay. Even for majority of genetic changes take decades, become very obvious. Prior to me having my vaccine, the question I ask myself is, there are many people that are dying on a daily basis. My job involves facing people. I have to travel on public transport sometimes. You have to travel internationally. You don't even know who you are coming into contact with. This disease now is affecting a lot of younger people as well. I've got patients who are in their 40s who have passed away recently. Are you with me? Some are in intensive care. So it is no respecter of age now or of persons. Now, given the choice, what would I prefer? Even if a change is going to happen in 50 years' time or 30 years' time, would I want to die now? Or would I take something to preserve me, to keep me going? At least until that 30 years or 40 years, if it sustains me? The answer to me was yes, I would. Again, if I go to the supermarket to buy food, to buy sausages, to buy chicken, to buy whatever, do I know how it was produced? Whether that chicken is safe, that sausage is safe? I buy it with the knowledge that the Medicines and Health Regulatory Authority have made sure that it is good for consumption. When you walk by in Accra, you pass by the chofi, the rice meal you buy. Okay, you buy. When you go to a restaurant, you're eating your chicken made in China, written on the barrel. Do you question where it came from? What is in it? What has been used to produce it? Barely do people think twice, because they believe in the process. Are you with me? So all that I'm saying is that people take risks every day. When they buy paracetamol, they don't know whether that paracetamol was packaged from which country or what country, whether it's mixed with powder or whatever. So I'm just saying this so that people can put things into perspective. That look, if there's a vaccine that will save your life, then don't depend on hearsay. Are you with me? And then die an unnecessary death when you could actually benefit from it. So number one, it does not affect or interact with your DNA in any way. From the information that I have read myself, it never enters the nucleus of the cell where your genetic material is kept. The cell breaks it down and gets rid of the mRNA soon after it's finished using the instructions to replicate that viral protein, and that is it. It ends there. Yeah.
I think that is brilliant. You see, that it's funny how we have accepted technology to the extent that look how far apart we all are. I have people joining from Canada, US, Ghana, all over the world by kind courtesy of technology, through a medium like Omega Live TV. We are able to hold such a session to try and get rid of some of the fears people have. So it really is interesting that we accept technology when it comes to communication, and yet we have our doubts when it comes to medical technology, which is very well researched just as much as they are doing in other areas of science. So people have joined in with questions, and let me go through a few so we stay in touch with them, Dr.
All right. That's fine.
Yeah, I will go right to the top because people joined in way early. And for all of you joining in, thank you so much for your patronage. And it's very important we keep sharing our knowledge and sharing everything to get our people in tune so they go and get the vaccine. So let's acknowledge a few people here. Rebecca Nana Brew has joined. Kojo Teming says this virus is still around because people are keeping it alive.
Yeah.
People are keeping it alive. People are not listening to the warnings. And of course, they are not heeding to all the protocols that are in place. So Stephen Tufo, Nana Ama, Philo Chumesi, Francis Achampon, you are all watching. And Kojo Teming was saying that I think one thing that you, the word you were looking for in explaining was the template. There was a template already there. Yeah,
yes.
So he's just contributing.
Thank you.
But Kojo is watching. I think he's in Canada.
Thank you, Kojo.
And he is always watching the show. So thank you very much, Kojo. Dr. Sapia is here. And Matilda Moore is also watching. Now, Daniela Pritchard, you joined in and you said you had your Pfizer vaccine. You've already had your first dose. So well done to you for also doing that. Kojo says that word is template, and I've said that already. And now there was another question from, or a contribution from Nana Sheila OQ, I think it is. And she says the minimum years it has taken to create any vaccine is 7 years. So you need to understand the fears of people with this vaccine. This is the first vaccine ever made with mRNA. There are medications made with mRNA, but not a vaccine. And I think you have clearly, but you can throw more light on it and expand it. And I think it's purely because technology is advancing all the time. Daniela says it's an opportunity given to us to take the vaccine. Day 13 since I took my vaccine, and all I had was sore arm, and that was it. At the end of the day, it's an individual's choice. It is an individual choice, but
that is why we are doing this program. You know what? We need to give the choice to people.
Yes.
We need to give. The reason people were contacting us, asking so many questions was that, let me give you an example. People go to church, people go to community meetings, and then a leader is standing there creating fear. Okay, now the person leaves the meeting and the person is confused. Should I go for it? Should I go for it? And a lot of times, the facts upon which this person is delivering that information, you can tell that it is not really based on any fact, and yet somebody's life at risk because they've been misinformed. Okay, let people have access to the information. Let them make their own choice and decide, do I want the vaccine? Do I not want the vaccine? And as I said, it comes down to individual choices. People can believe what people want to believe. I don't have all that information. I mean, 2 days ago, I was watching, my wife was showing a video from Ghana, somebody educating a community group about preventing stroke, the causes of stroke. I couldn't help myself laughing. And one of the things that this person was saying was that you first have to pour, if you're pouring water on yourself when you're bathing, okay, to prevent stroke, you wash your feet first, then your legs, then your knees, before you put the water on your head. I mean, and I sat there saying, I mean, and people are listening to this person. Are you with me? And going home believing that this so-called leader knows it all, making himself very impressive. And that is what scares me, that if you're not careful, people will not take the vaccine, not because they have access to information, but because they've been misinformed and by people who should actually know better. So I'm delighted. For those that have not yet made up their mind, I'm just trying to explain that, look, vaccines are not as bad as we think they are. And given the choice between life and death, being killed by the virus now, would you take it? Would you not take it? Is it safe enough for me to take it? The answer, I would want to believe that it is reasonably safe enough to take the vaccine. Are you with me? It might not be everybody's cup of tea. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really like the analysis you gave earlier that especially when you have put frontline workers at the front and they are the soldiers, would you want to get rid of your soldiers?
That's right.
In the middle of a war? You see, and that is how people have to begin to look at it. We are encountering this virus on a daily basis, those of us on the front line. So would you imagine any country putting their soldiers at the front of the war, get them all killed? Who is going to look after everyone else? You see, so that is why we are keeping it going and sharing. Linda Apia says,
Winnie, let me just add something. You know, one of the things that surprised me was that, I mean, if you take a country like Israel, I mean, they are very particular what they give their people and what they do. And yet, they are the country that are the fastest in vaccinating their people. They've already vaccinated a third of their population. And they are still. Do you think they will sit there all in the name of what? 666, 999, or whatever conspiracy theories are out there and kill off their own people? I dare not believe that. Are you with me?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Linda says thank you. Linda Pierre, she says thank you for the explanation on DNA, because obviously it was getting DNA and mRNA. You know, it was confusing. And she says ignorance, it's a killer. And we know that for sure, that ignorance is a very, very big killer indeed. So Kojotimen says if people in the 50s and 60s had not used vaccines, none of us will be alive today. And that is an absolute fact. If they hadn't embraced the ideas of vaccine usage, probably we would have been wiped out by some of the killer diseases from the past. So indeed, it is a collective responsibility, and that is exactly what we are doing now. So let's go on to more questions. And I think some of the questions people were asking, especially for pregnant women and people who are breastfeeding, a lot of them have genuine concerns that where do they stand in all of this for pregnant women, for instance, and lactating mothers?
I think that so far the information we have is that pregnant women will be risk assessed and they would get vaccinated as well. When you look at the joint committee, the JCVI guidelines, or the joint committee guidelines that was released by the government in terms of the priority groups that needed to get jabbed, you would see that down on the list, you see pregnant women there, and then you see mothers that are breastfeeding there. So yes, as long as the person does not have a reason or medical reason why they should not have the vaccine, it will be safe for them to have. And I think there was another question that I saw where somebody said that, is it safe for me to get the COVID vaccine if I would like to have a baby one day? And I think you also asked a question where another gentleman was asking whether the vaccine would affect their impotency. Are you with me? Or create impotency or affect their ability,
Yes.
or their potency will affect their potency.
Yeah.
So far, the evidence doesn't show that it will cause erectile dysfunction. No. Evidence doesn't show. And I think it comes from the fact that it was linked to one of these conspiracy theories that they wanted to depopulate Africa and the Southeast. Are you with me? But all I see is the vaccine being deployed in the Western countries on their own people. So maybe they don't want their own people to become fertile again. So they are injecting them to control population, but I don't think so. It doesn't. People who want to get pregnant in future may receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Based on current knowledge, experts believe that the vaccine is unlikely to pose a risk to a person trying to become pregnant. And I remember somebody asking me this question, that how can you be sure in line of the thalidomide incident? In line, yes, there have been experiments that have gone wrong. And I can make mention of this, even this Tuskegee experiment that happened in the US, where 400 black men were injected with a syphilis bug. Are you with me? Things have happened in the past that does not even bear mention. There will still be wicked scientists around. But by and large, concerning this particular vaccine, I think that the world has been watching, people have been probing. There's a lot of reviews that are being done. People are scrutinizing it. Are you with me? So it will be very surprising if they would actually not step back and do something as wicked as this. But as far as the evidence shows, no, like any other vaccine, it just works by training the body to develop antibodies to fight against the virus that causes COVID-19 to prevent future illness.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is very, very clear for all of us. I think another question people were asking, I mean, that impotency thing is a big thing with all the men on here, because it's like no one wants to take a vaccine and then end up being impotent. It's such a huge question I've been hearing from, obviously our gentlemen on here. Now, another question, does the vaccine protect for life? Does the vaccine offer lifetime protection?
No, the vaccine does not offer lifetime protection. It doesn't. I think that you originally asked a question that if I've already had COVID disease and recovered, do I need to get vaccinated? Isn't it? The answer is yes. The evidence that is coming out suggests that, in fact, in the great majority of people who tested positive with the disease actually were ill with it, they did some immunity. Within 5 months, the immunity was gone. So it tells you that even when you develop natural immunity from the disease, it is not lifelong. It is almost the same as the influenza virus. Nobody develops lifelong immunity to influenza virus. Are you with me? That is why we have the influenza jab every year to boost up your immunity. It is the same. When you take something like hepatitis C vaccine, you remember that when you're traveling, you go for your travel jab. It is valid. The vaccine is valid for a certain number of years. After which you must have top-ups or boosters to keep the body's immune system primed up all the time. So some viral conditions are like that. COVID is like that. You're not going to get lifelong immunity. So what we're going to probably have is that we're going to have a vaccine just like the flu vaccine, and every year we're going to inject vaccinating those that are vulnerable. Okay. So at the moment, even if you've had COVID before but you've recovered, if you have the opportunity to have the vaccine and you want to have it, I would say yes, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the other questions people were asking and people had fears about was there a vaccine going to be made for black people and white people and all the racial kind of discriminations that go on sometimes. And in that regard, I just want to say that, for instance, when I went to get my vaccine, it was the same vaccine on offer for everyone. So people simply don't have to fear that there's going to be discrimination when it comes to giving the vaccines. Have you got anything to say about this in terms of like worldwide vaccine distribution? Because there are many people joining in, like say from Africa, Ghana to be specific, and they are saying, is the one going to Africa, is it going to be different from what has been started in the developed world?
Winnie, it's so difficult to tell. It is so difficult.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to tell. But just like you said, in my practice, we are vaccinating at the moment. Now, the vaccines that we're given, are you with me? When a black or minority person comes, I don't take something from a different box and jab them.
Yeah.
It is the same vaccine. What is going to be sent to Africa, I don't know. My question to viewers is that for years, vaccines have been sent to Africa. Our governments have always accepted vaccines for childhood immunizations, for so many different diseases.
Yeah.
When did we start questioning? Our governments have always allowed experiments to be done, allowed trials to be done, allowed vaccinations to be done. Are you with me? Why is it that all of a sudden, we're skeptical about the kind of vaccine that is going to be sent to Africa? Why have we never been skeptical about the kind of paracetamol that comes to us, the kind of maybe cancer treatment that come to us, the kind of tuberculosis treatments that are sent to us, the kind of HIV medications that are sent to us? Why now? Are you with me? And unfortunately, it is because of all these theories and things that have been posted out there regarding Bill and Melinda Gates, regarding nanotechnology, regarding, somebody mentioned something called luciferase, produced by Massachusetts Institute of Technology. All these are things that are online. People talking about the nanoparticles being what? Biometric detectors that are being patented by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, so that they can be used for cryptocurrency, future cryptocurrency trade once it enters your body. So many different things being said. Are you with me? I'm not privy to whatever is going on in secret. I'm not. All that I can say is that at this point in time, that we have a pandemic that is killing people, given the choice of staying alive, the medications that are being used, we're trying to give so many medications, but the disease is still wiping out people. Okay, we have to use so many different modalities to combat this pandemic. Vaccines are one of them. If you have the choice, will you take it or will you not take it? This is what it comes down to. It comes down to survival. And my answer, if people want my honest answer, I would say that, look, you have the opportunity to have the vaccine, have the vaccine.
Yeah.
Okay? Just have the vaccine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one question which I think is important, and it's more like a caution to people who are having the vaccines now. Now, once you've actually had it, obviously we know that they say about different levels of protection depending on how far gone you've had the vaccine.
Yeah.
How well should people be cautious about protocols, especially when you have had the vaccine? Because I've seen people who have had the vaccine, and because of that, even wearing a nose mask is like, I'm protected. What advice have we got for people once they eventually have the vaccine, for instance?
Okay. I think it's a shame that people are behaving that way. Remember that when the vaccine goes into your body, it is there to induce immunity. It does not mean that you cannot come into contact with the virus. You would come into contact with the virus all the time.
Yeah.
When somebody has a flu jab, a chickenpox jab, or whatever jab they have, it doesn't mean they will never come into contact with the organism. You will come into contact with the organism. But the vaccine allows your body to fight off the infection. If you take COVID, if COVID is in my nose as a general practitioner, or it's on my hands, it's in my mouth, I am still at risk of passing it on to someone else. So I myself would have had a jab. It doesn't mean that I cannot infect someone else. I would not be ill with it because I'm immune. But then, if I don't wear the mask and I'm talking to somebody, if I've got the virus in my nose, then I could infect some vulnerable patient of mine, a vulnerable relative of mine, somebody on the bus, somebody on the train, somebody on the aircraft. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And this person might not be as lucky as I am. They might not be able to mount up the immunity that I can. They might have illnesses which makes them very vulnerable. Are you with me? And by my reckless behavior, I can easily cause that person to die. And that is why you still hear the message from the government that this pandemic is not over. Whilst we are vaccinated, we are still following guidelines. Are you with me? We're still washing hands. We're still wearing masks. We're still maintaining safe distance. Are you with me? We're still taking medication until we get to the point where a great majority of the population have developed sufficient immunity, either from vaccines or can protect themselves. Then we can probably relax the guidelines and say that, okay, we can take the masks off. 80% of the population are immune now. We've jabbed them and they are able to cope. So we can pass the virus around and we know that most people are going to be safe. But until then, people should be sensible. And thank you for asking that question, because despite this guideline being in place, some of our people have still been attending gatherings. People have been doing parties. People have been doing engagements. People have been doing things they shouldn't be doing. My question is, are these people actually thinking straight that by their reckless behavior, they are putting their elderly relatives at risk and other people at risk? And the person that dies may just be the breadwinner from a family, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, somebody's grandma, somebody's granddad. So we're just sensitizing people that, look, follow the guidelines, be sensible. Okay, this pandemic very soon would be over. Whatever activities that we've put on hold, we would go back to them. Nothing is going to change. Stay alive for the next 6 months. Nothing will change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is good to know. Anyway, those of you who have joined us online, thank you so much for doing that. And I say keep sharing. All this has come to you by kind courtesy of Omega Live TV, Omega House Multimedia, and they are always solidly behind us when it comes to these health problems, health programs. So please keep sharing and let's get people on board. Let's take a few more people who are contributing to the show. And Linda wants to ask, Linda Pierre, I think she's one of the presenters at Omega Live TV, and she says, what about if you have prostate cancer? And I would just put it in a bigger perspective. Those who are immunosuppressed, people who have so many underlying conditions and may be having one form of treatment or the other. And we can cite cancer patients for as an example. And will the vaccine interfere with any prostate medication or radiotherapy?
I think that sometimes you have to look at each case on an individual basis. Yeah, from the guidelines that we've received, the protocol that we're following in vaccinating people in the community, certainly patients who are immunocompromised fall within that guideline. Are you with me? To receive the vaccine, but each patient is assessed. So, for example, when you're coming in, we would look at your medical history. We would look at your history of allergies. We will look at the medications that you're taking. If we think that, for example, the vaccine would interfere with the treatment that you're having, your consultant would even make it very clear to you that you cannot have this vaccine. Are you with me? You will be told clearly. But so far, the fact that somebody is immunocompromised or receiving cancer therapy does not mean that they are excluded from the vaccine. No. Each case will be assessed on its own merit.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good point she made. And Daniela Pritchard says she's one of the vaccinators in her local hospital, and she can honestly say that only a handful of the Black and Asian minority background people are taking the vaccine, and yet we are at high risk. Yeah, what do you have to say to that? It's not a question as such, but it's just like to say. I mean, and that's what.
Well, it's a good contribution. It's a good contribution, just reinforcing the fact that why are we doing this program? Just to encourage our people to be a bit open-minded, isn't it? That if you have the opportunity to take the vaccine, please analyze what is out there. If you sit on social media believing everything that you read on social media, I'm telling you, you would even be scared to eat. That is the truth. You'll be scared to eat. You'll be scared to eat, to use anything at all. But I think it's reasonably safe for people to go for it, rather than our people. Yes, people are dying, and it's not going to suddenly stop. Once the what do you call it, the lockdown is lifted, people have to go back to work. Now, when you're going back to work, you don't have any immunity. A great majority of the population have had the vaccine. They have immunity to it, but they are carrying the virus in their nostrils and in their mouth. Are you with me? And you're going to go to work with them without a protection yourself. So you are more vulnerable. They are protected. You are not protected. You're going to sit on trains with them. You're going to sit on buses with them. You're actually going to interact with them if you are working at the checkout without a mask because the lockdown is lifted, but you have no protection. Are you with me? You suddenly become vulnerable, and we would start seeing high rates within the BAMI community again.
Yeah, we will do. Yeah. And I think so many people are in agreement to that. Giptio Kai says it's educative topic, and Kojo Temeng is saying again is that the problem is with questioning, but the answer to the question of conspiracy theories is that the vaccine is just abuse of social media, and I think we all agree to that. It's just information not being disseminated properly. So people need to be aware of their sources of information. And what we are doing here, everything that we are saying is purely based on evidence, through practice and through being constantly updated from legitimate sources of information. So guys, keep sharing. I think we are getting close to the end of it. Nana Sheila says people need to research and ask questions, and I think that is what the program is doing now, trying to educate people. The vaccine is an individual choice. Great show, thank you. Taking the vaccine does not give you complete immunity. People still need to follow all the protocols because there are still different strains out there. Lydia Kwashi, she is based in Sheffield, and she says, thank you, Dr. Khan and Sister Winnie. This is very educative, and I know she is always following the question. Thank you, guys. Guys, keep sharing, and after the show, don't end it there. Just keep sharing with your friends as well. And Dr. Khan, I think one question I would want to ask is, are there any side effects from the vaccine once you've taken it? Are there any side effects?
Yes, just like any other medication that we take, there are side effects, but thank goodness the side effects are very subtle. Now, when I had my jab, for the first 24 hours, I had a bit of chills, a bit of a headache. I felt flu-like. After 24 hours, it was gone, just completely gone. A great majority of the patients that get jabbed, we tell them to call us if they have any side effects at all. And so far, it is just either local tenderness. You know, when you've had a jab, the local area might appear a bit bruised or red or tender, but usually within a few days that goes away. Some patients have complained about or reported feeling unwell, feeling tired, having chills, having a bit of a temperature, a bit of a headache, feeling sick. Some patients have reported that they felt a bit dizzy, but by and large, most of these symptoms within a few days just disappear. Are you with me? And that is not because of the virus causing a problem for you. No, it is not the virus causing a problem. It is the body's immune system responding to the vaccine that causes that reaction. Are you with me? But once the immunity starts, the body gets used to it and it's okay.
And it's okay. And I think that brings us to another very important question. Obviously, these are just side effects. But what about if someone has allergies to certain drugs? Then what do they do?
I mean, I think the instruction clearly on the government website is that if you've ever had a severe allergic reaction to any of the substances in the vaccine, okay, not just the vaccine, but the substances in the vaccine, then it will not be given to you Are you with me? Again, when it comes to allergies, before we jab anybody, we do ask them if they have any allergy at all. Unfortunately, sometimes people are not even aware that they would be allergic to something, because I'm sure you've heard that initially quite a few people had what we call anaphylactic reaction. They never knew that they had any allergies before. And sometimes, rarely, some of these things can happen, but the great majority of people are safe having it. Are you with me? Your pharmacist will assess, the doctor will assess, the nurse will assess, and find out if you've got any history of any allergies at all. We'll find out what kind of allergies these are, and then decide whether it is safe for you to have the vaccine or not. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Believe it or not, Dr. Khan, we've done this for an hour.
Wow.
We've done an hour already. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it because the questions coming my way through all sources was a lot. So I think a lot of people should be pleased that people like you are at the forefront and happy to share all the information and allay our fears as well. So is there any more you want to say to us regarding these vaccines? And then in the absence of any, further contributions, we can round off.
Okay, there were a few questions that a few people sent to me. One of the questions was that, do the different types of COVID vaccines, would they protect me against the different strains equally? Okay, and the answer is, that's a good question. The answer is that even when you take the Pfizer and the Oxford, they give you different levels of immunity. Are you with me? It is said that the Pfizer, once you've had the 2 doses, you can have up to about 90 to 95% protection or immune response. Whereas when you take the Oxford one, the values that are being quoted are between 62% and 65%. However, interestingly, the flu jab only gives 50% immune response. And yet, year on, we do have it. Now, when you have a lot of questions have been asked about these Brazilian variant, Kent variant, South African variant, will the vaccine work? So far, we've been assured that, as I said, the changes in the mutation or the variant is very subtle. And that is to do with the viral protein. And most of the vaccines that have been developed targeting the viral protein. So the vaccines that we have available should be able to deal with the variants. So it shouldn't cause them at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and any more information to add on?
And then there's another question. It says that if I take the vaccine, am I protected for life? I think we've already answered that. And how long will that immunity last? Okay, the immunity is not lifelong, as we said. There's still a lot of research being done. Are you with me? And we would continue doing that. When people have had the vaccine, we will still continue assessing people, analyzing blood samples, doing antibody tests with the view of finding out that how long has somebody who had the vaccine had their immunity for, whether it will last for 6 months, whether it will last for a year. Are you with me? These are things that we would get more information with it. I've also answered the question that if I have the vaccine, can I still catch the virus and can I spread to the others? The answer is yes. You yourself may not develop any severe illness at all because you're immune. Are you with me? But you're still carrying the virus in your nose or in your mouth or on your body, and you can spread that to other people. And then there is one more question that somebody asked. It said, why do I need 2 doses? Is 1 dose not enough? Why does a longer dose interval seem to provide a better immune response? This is the question that somebody posed to me, that originally we said you have your jab and then you have your second jab after 3 to 4 weeks. And then another guideline came and it said that no, people are going to have their second doses up to about 12 weeks. And it started creating a lot of confusion. There are 2 reasons for that. When a lot of the trials that were done were looking at how should we give the second dose. In fact, to be honest with you, I think that when you read a lot of the trials, the Oxford trial in particular, they were considering, should we do a 2-dose vaccine or should we do a 1-dose vaccine? And they realized that giving a 2-dose vaccine gave a better immune response. Are you with me? So they settled on a 2-dose response. Then the next thing would be, so how soon do we give the second dose? And they worked on different scenarios. If we give the second dose maybe between 3 to 4 weeks, this is how much response we have. But we can give the second dose between 3 to 12 weeks actually. And evidence shows that, look, the immune response matures after you give the first dose. It takes a bit of time for the immune response to mature after you've given the first dose. So if you give your second dose, for example, say 2 to 3 weeks after, you're going to get a response, but that response is not going to be greater than, for example, if you give the second dose, say 6 weeks after. The reason being that the body takes time. The immune response takes time to mature. So therefore, we can even say that giving it a little bit later might probably give you a better response than giving it closer to the first vaccine. So that is the reason why 2 doses are given. And the part also of the reason that the government says that we should delay the second dose is because of supply. Okay, because initially the supply that came in, if I have 100,000 people that I'm vaccinating, would I spend the few vials of vaccine that I have on just the 10,000 initial people, give them 2 doses, the vaccines are gone? Or would I want to give 100,000 a first dose? And then when I get another supply, give the second dose? Because giving everybody the first dose would allow most people to have some level of immunity to combat the disease. And then when we get the supply for the second dose, we can give the second doses. So it is still safe. Whether you get your second dose after 3 weeks or after 10 weeks, you will still develop immunity. It is still safe. Are you with me?
Yeah.
I think those are the main questions that I was getting from the general public, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we will be rounding off shortly, but I think there is no way we can talk about this and not think about spirituality, because Africans always relate everything to spiritual connotations and all that. And before you go on to answer this question, Dr. Khan, I want to say thank you all for joining in. And I also want to say that there were technical problems. There probably still is. And I don't have my producer here to guide me as to how to even sit or how to position myself. But guys, the main thing is that we've done it and we've got the information out there. And trust me, as soon as it is safe for us to go back to the studio and bring you good quality programs, we are certainly going to do that. So, Dr. Khan, the question from Omega Live TV is, can you explain more about the myth of 666 vaccine? The vaccine being 666, because I think a lot of people would be interested to hear about that. And then Trevor Neal, who is contributing, saying, by the way, an elderly lady that I know has already had both doses and she had no side effects whatsoever. Had no side effects whatsoever. You see, so it is doing a lot of good to people. And I will say that, guys, in the Black, Asian, ethnic minority groups, don't be left out. Don't be left out. Let's do it, because we need to protect our people. So, Doctor, can we go on to this myth? Because I know you always say that, look, you will pray when you are sick, but get the treatment while you pray. And I like that so much, isn't it?
Yes, I do.
What have you got to say about this myth of
I listen, Winnie, I wish I was a prophet. I wish I could explain. There's so many people talking about 666, and I don't know, excuse me to say, I don't know how much of their Bible they know. Are you with me? Maybe God has revealed things to people that I'm not privy to. But I think during my research, one of the things I came across, okay, there is a patent by Microsoft founder Bill Gates and his wife Melinda Gates. That patent has a patent number 060606. It is a patent, okay? Now, people claim that this patent is for coronavirus vaccines, and they are saying that it is linked to a ploy or a plan for microchips to be inserted in nanoparticles to harvest biometric data from people. Are you with me? And in fact, people went on to say that the first vaccine is to prime you, and then when the second vaccine comes in, it will insert some nanoparticles or some chips into the body. Okay, and that bears this mark 666 because of the patent 060606. Are you with me? Now, that patent, yes, is there. Bill Gates owns a patent like this. Are you with me? But that patent does not involve microchips, nanoparticles, or COVID-19 vaccine. To the best of the knowledge that I have, if something is going on in the background, I do not know. My question would be, even if there's a 666 or whatever, I will leave that to the divine. Are you with me? That is up to God to deal with it. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to be anxious. I'm not going to say that I won't take a vaccination. I'm not going to say I won't take a medication simply because of 666. Ever since I've been a young Christian, okay, there have always been prophets of doom. Yeah. And I remember the Waco incident in Texas, if you can remember, where a so-called man of God led his whole congregation to consume poison or something. The whole church, everybody died. Why? Because they trusted him. They believed in him. He explained, he apparently, he had the knowledge to explain that Christ was coming soon. Armageddon was close, and he wanted to take all his people along with him without any suffering. Are you with me? So people have to be careful what they hear and the interpretation to things that they hear. A lot of information on the internet is commercially packaged. Let us not forget that a lot of people putting content out there are doing that for their own selfish motives, for their own selfish reasons, to make money, to get wealthy, to become popular, okay, to look very impressive. Are you with me? To gain status. So many people do things for so many reasons. Yes, some of the information may be truth. It may carry some truth that we may not be privy to. Are you with me? But by and large, people put information out there for different reasons. And it will be very foolish of me, for example, as a clinician, to just believe everything hook, line, and sinker without siphoning what information I listen to or what information that I act on. Are you with me? And my advice to people today is that, look, the virus is here to stay. There is a bit of hope for the future. Okay, vaccines are just one of the ways by which we can combat this disease. We're experimenting with medications. We're experimenting with so many different modalities of treatment, including the preventative message that we're putting out there, maintaining safe space, wearing your mask, washing your hands. All these are things that we're going to do so that we can survive this pandemic. We've done that for smallpox, for chickenpox, for tuberculosis, for so many different deadly diseases. We will do the same for this. Man will come out on the other side better and being able to handle this pandemic. So there is hope. Is that okay? There's hope for the future. And I don't want people running scared because of all that information that is out there on the internet. And I guess I'll probably end on that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So is that your last word, Dr. Khan?
Well, if you give me the permission, that probably may be my last word.
Yeah, put your last word in then. If you have any more to say.
No, just to say that people should stay safe. That's all. Stay safe, sleep well. Okay. Protect yourself, protect other people, and then protect the NHS.
Yeah, fantastic. Guys, you know what I'll say? Obviously, this is the first session for 2021, and we had to let this happen, obviously, by sheer volume of the questions that you were bringing in. So regardless of the lockdown and everything here in the UK, we had to find a way of making things happen. And trust me, I've had to go through a whole lot of sessions with the producer to make sure this happens. So it may not be perfect, but think of the content. The content has been deep and there is so much information on here. So I'll say that Happy New Year to you all, guys. Producer Joe Dukovna and the Omega team. I know my positioning even on set tonight has been awful because I just simply don't know how to position. But the good news is that you have given us the opportunity for us to do this, and it has been awesome. As we go through the year, January is almost ending now, but guys, we have made it this far, and we have to keep going. Keep sharing this content, keep sharing with your friends and family, and let's get the knowledge out there. Encourage people. If we are not careful, history will run fast and we will be left far behind as the Black and Asian and ethnic minority groups. We have to go for this vaccine and save lives. So on that note, thank you, Omega Live TV. Thank you, Uncle Joe, and sorry for, that not being able to do the right things you wanted on set. But I promise you, as soon as we are able to come your way, live in the studio, we will do that. As always, Dr. Khan, you are such an inspiration, and I always look up to you a lot for all the resourcefulness and everything. And to all the fans out there, guys, we really, really need to stay safe. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, but then we can do something about it. And the way forward is go for the vaccines. All the compliments are very well noted, and I appreciate you all. And I'll say that watch out, we may try and do other sessions via Skype. Once we've started, I'm sure we will improve and get better. So stay tuned in. And this, as usual, came to you by proud sponsorship of World Remit through Omega Live TV. So on that note, I say thank you all and God bless you and stay safe. If you have any questions, put it on here and we will go through and get back to you. God bless you all. Love you all.
Thank you very much, Winnie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khan.
All right then. Thank you. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Not alcohol, not beer, clear water regularly